What if the water you've been drinking every single day is quietly failing your body after 60? Not today, not tomorrow, but year after year, sip after sip, the very thing your doctor told you would keep you healthy might actually be leaving your blood vessels starved, your circulation sluggish, and your energy drained. I know how that sounds. It sounds like I'm about to contradict everything you've been told your entire life. And honestly, I am. But I need you to stay with me because what I'm about to share with you isn't opinion. It isn't some theory I dreamed up in a laboratory at 2 in the morning. It's something far more powerful. It's something backed by research from institutions like Harvard, Vanderbilt, and the University of Colorado. And it might change the way you think about every glass of water you drink from this moment forward. I'm Dr. David. And for years, I've worked as a physician and researcher studying how what we eat and drink interacts directly with the human vascular system. And that means I've spent my career looking at blood vessels, the arteries, the capillaries, the veins, the highways your blood travels every second of every day. And what I've discovered over thousands of patient interactions and hundreds of published studies is something that mainstream medicine has been painfully slow to acknowledge. The people who age the best, the ones who stay sharp and energetic and independent well into their 80s and beyond, are almost never just drinking plain water. They're doing something different, something specific, something so simple that when I tell you what it is, you'll wonder why nobody mentioned it to you before. Here's where it gets serious. A landmark study from the University of Colorado found that adults over 60 who optimized their hydration with specific bioactive compounds showed up to a 43% improvement in endothelial function compared to those who drank plain water alone. 43%. For those who don't know, the endothelium is the thin lining inside your blood vessels. Think of it like the paint on the inside of a pipe. When that paint is healthy and smooth, everything flows. When it's damaged or inflamed, the pipe narrows, the flow becomes turbulent, and eventually the whole system begins to fail. 43% improvement means the difference between a 65-year-old who walks into a room looking and feeling like they're 80 and a 65-year-old who walks in looking and feeling like they're 50. That's not a minor statistical blurb buried in a medical journal. That's a life-changing difference. But here's what I need you to understand before we go any further. Plain water is not your enemy. I'm not telling you to abandon water. That would be reckless and scientifically inaccurate. What I'm telling you is that after 60, plain water alone is no longer sufficient. Your body changes as you age. Your kidneys become less efficient at managing sodium and potassium. Your blood vessels lose elasticity. Your natural antioxidant defenses decline. Your ability to produce nitric oxide, perhaps the single most important molecule for cardiovascular health, drops by nearly 50% between the ages of 40 and 70. 50%, half of this critical molecule gone. And yet most people over 60 are still drinking water the same way they did at 30, expecting the same results. It doesn't work that way anymore. Your body is asking for something more, and most people simply aren't listening. Today, I'm going to count down 5 of the most powerful drinks you can add to your water routine. We'll go from number 5, which is powerful, all the way to number 1, which is, in my professional opinion, the single most impactful thing you can add to your water after 60. But before we begin the countdown, I want to tease you with number 1 right now because I promise you it's something you've walked past in the grocery store 100 times. You've probably looked at it and dismissed it. Maybe you thought it was a trend or a fad. But Harvard-affiliated researchers have connected this single drink to a 38% reduction in arterial stiffness in adults over 70. 38% in 4 weeks. We'll get there, I promise. But we have to build up to it because understanding why it works requires understanding what's happening inside your body first. Now, before we dive into number 5, I want to ask you something directly. How old are you right now? What's the biggest health challenge you're facing at this stage of your life? Is it your energy, your circulation, your joints, your memory, your blood pressure? Take a moment and think about that because your answer matters, not just to me, but to you. Because here's something I've learned after years of practice. The people who take a moment to identify their real health challenge To name it, to face it honestly, those are the people who actually make changes. Those are the people who get results. The ones who ignore it, who push it aside, who say it's just part of getting older, those are the ones who wake up one day and realize they've been sliding downhill for a decade without even noticing. So here's what I want you to do. Drop your age and your biggest health concern down in the comments below. I personally read every single comment, and your answers genuinely help me understand what matters most to you. It takes 10 seconds, and it might be the most important 10 seconds you spend today, because naming the problem is the first step towards solving it. Now let's get into it. Our countdown goes from 5 to 1, 5 being powerful, 1 being absolutely extraordinary. Every claim I make today is backed by published research, and all references are linked in the description below. Let's begin with number 5. And I'll warn you right now, this one surprises almost everyone I share it with, including other doctors. Coming in at number 5, and this one genuinely surprises almost everyone I share it with: coconut water. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Isn't that just some overpriced fancy sports drink marketed to 20-somethings at yoga studios? I understand the skepticism completely, but here's what the research actually shows. And more importantly, here's why it matters specifically for your aging body in ways that have nothing to do with electrolyte gimmicks or fitness trends. A study conducted at the University of the West Indies followed adults between the ages of 62 and 74 who replaced 1 glass of plain water a day with natural, unsweetened coconut water. After just 8 weeks, their systolic blood pressure dropped by an average of 11 points. 11 points from a single drink. For context, that's the top number in your blood pressure reading, the one your doctor watches most carefully, the one that tells you how much pressure is pounding against your artery walls with every heartbeat. 11 points can be the difference between being told you need medication and being told you're doing just fine. Here's why this works so powerfully, and it comes down to something happening inside your body that nobody talks about. After 60, your kidneys become less efficient at managing the balance between sodium and potassium in your bloodstream. Think of sodium and potassium like 2 children on a seesaw. When one goes up, the other needs to come down for your blood pressure to stay balanced. It's a delicate, constant dance that your younger body handled effortlessly. But after 65, that seesaw gets sticky. It doesn't move as freely. The mechanism that kept everything in balance for decades starts to falter, and your blood pressure creeps up as a direct result. Coconut water is one of the richest natural sources of potassium on the entire planet. A single cup contains more potassium than a banana, and here's the part that matters most for your aging body. It delivers that potassium in a bioavailable form. That means your digestive system, which becomes less efficient at absorbing nutrients as you age, can actually take in and use it effectively. Unlike many potassium supplements that pass right through you without being absorbed, coconut water gives your body something it can genuinely work with. But there's something else happening here, something at the level of your blood vessels themselves that goes beyond just potassium. Coconut water contains cytokinins, a class of plant compounds that research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology has directly linked to reduced oxidative stress in vascular tissue. Now, oxidative stress, simply put, is rust forming inside your arteries. It's the same process that turns a shiny piece of iron into a crumbling, corroded mess. Except inside your body, it's happening to the delicate walls of your blood vessels. And after 70, your body's natural antioxidant defenses drop by roughly 30%. 30% less protection against the very process that stiffens and damages your arteries. That makes external support like this not just helpful, but critically important. Let me put this in perspective with a patient I'll never forget. Her name was Eleanor, and she was 68 years old when she first walked into my office. Eleanor had been on the same blood pressure medication for 9 years. Her readings had been creeping up despite the medication, and her doctor was already talking about increasing the dosage. She was tired all the time. She described her legs as feeling heavy, like she was wading through wet concrete. She'd stopped gardening, which had been her passion for 40 years. When I asked about her daily hydration, it was plain water and occasional coffee, nothing else. I suggested she replace her morning glass of water with 8 ounces of raw, unsweetened coconut water, not the flavored varieties, which are loaded with added sugar that would counteract every benefit I just described. Raw, unsweetened, natural. Every morning, ideally before breakfast when her body was most receptive to nutrient absorption. Here's the synergy tip that makes this even more powerful, and I want you to remember this because it applies to more than just coconut water. Pair it with a small handful of pumpkin seeds. The magnesium in those seeds works alongside the potassium in the coconut water to support healthy muscle contraction in your heart wall. Yes, your heart is a muscle, and after 60, it needs every single advantage you can give it. Magnesium and potassium together are like giving your heart a team of assistants instead of making it do all the work alone. 8 weeks later, Eleanor came back. Her systolic blood pressure had dropped 9 points. She'd reduced the heaviness in her legs, and she told me something that stuck with me. She said she'd planted tomatoes again for the first time in 2 years. One drink, one simple substitution, and a woman got her garden back. But as impressive as coconut water is, what I'm about to tell you at number 4 is going to change how you look at your evening routine forever. Because number 4 targets something entirely different, something that might be the hidden cause of problems you've been blaming on aging for years, problems you've accepted as inevitable. They're not. And the research I'm about to share proves it. Number 4 is tart cherry water. And if you have any issues with inflammation, joint pain, or nighttime sleep disruption, this one was practically designed for your body. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this single drink addresses 3 of the most common complaints I hear from patients over 60, and it does so through a mechanism that most people have never heard of. Tart cherries contain some of the highest concentrations of naturally occurring melatonin found in any food on Earth. And I'm not talking about melatonin in a pill that you buy at the pharmacy and swallow before bed, hoping it makes you drowsy. I'm talking about melatonin that is naturally packaged alongside anthocyanins, which are the deep red pigments responsible for the cherry's color. These anthocyanins act like a fire extinguisher for systemic inflammation. They don't just put out one fire, they help suppress the entire inflammatory cascade that's been quietly burning throughout your body for years. A study published in the European Journal of Nutrition followed adults over 65 with chronic joint inflammation and found that 2 weeks of daily tart cherry consumption reduced inflammatory markers, specifically something called C-reactive protein, by 25%. 2 weeks, 25% reduction. C-reactive protein is one of the most important inflammatory markers that doctors measure, and reducing it by a quarter in 14 days from a dietary change alone is nothing short of remarkable. And here's the part of the story I need you to really hear because this connects everything. Reduced inflammation directly improves blood flow. When your blood vessel walls are inflamed, they stiffen, they narrow. Blood has to push harder to get through, and that increased pressure is what raises your blood pressure and strains your heart. So, when you reduce inflammation, you're not just helping your joints feel better, you're literally opening up your blood vessels. You're giving your blood room to flow. You're taking pressure off your heart. The joints and the blood vessels are connected in ways that most people never consider. After 60, your body loses a significant portion of its ability to regulate inflammatory pathways. The immune cells that manage this process, called macrophages, become dysregulated with age. This phenomenon has a name in the research literature. It's called inflammaging, a slow, chronic, low-grade burn of inflammation that smolders throughout the body year after year, contributing to joint deterioration, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and a dozen other conditions that we typically just write off as normal aging. But it's not normal. It's a process, and processes can be interrupted. Let me tell you about Helen, 71 years old, from a small town in Georgia. Helen came to me frustrated and close to tears. She was sleeping only 4 hours a night. Her knees ached so badly that she'd stopped walking her dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit, who waited by the front door every morning expecting a walk that wasn't coming. Her last checkup showed borderline high blood pressure, When I asked about her daily routine, it was essentially plain water and 2 cups of coffee. Nothing that addressed inflammation, nothing that supported sleep, nothing that gave her blood vessels any active support at all. I introduced her to tart cherry water. 2 tablespoons of unsweetened tart cherry concentrate stirred into 8 ounces of water every evening around 7 o'clock. Not morning, not afternoon. Evening. Because the melatonin in tart cherries works with your body's natural circadian rhythm, and consuming it in the evening allows it to support the sleep cycle when your body needs it most. After 6 weeks, Helen called me. She was sleeping 6.5 hours a night. Her knee pain had reduced enough that she was back walking biscuit every single morning. Her blood pressure had dropped into the normal range. One simple addition to her water, one drink in the evening, and a woman who had been slowly losing pieces of her life got them back. Here's the synergy tip for tart cherry water, and it's one of my favorites because it's so unexpectedly simple. Add a small pinch of black pepper. Black pepper contains a compound called piperine, which has been shown in research to enhance the absorption of anthocyanins by up to 20%. That tiny addition, barely noticeable in taste, makes this drink measurably more effective. It's like upgrading the engine in your car for the cost of a single bolt. Now, if you think tart cherry water is impressive, and it genuinely is, wait until you hear what's sitting at number 3. Because number 3 involves a preparation method so specific that getting it wrong destroys nearly half of its most powerful compound, and getting it right amplifies its effects by nearly 3 times. Most people are making it wrong every single day without even knowing it. They think they're doing something healthy, and they are, but they're getting a fraction of what they could be getting. The research behind what this drink does to your blood vessels, specifically after 65, is something I think should be on the desk of every cardiologist in the country, but it's not, and I'm about to tell you why. Number 3 is green tea water, and I need to be very clear about something right from the start. This is not the green tea your grandmother served at room temperature in a delicate floral cup. This is green tea prepared in a very specific way that amplifies its most powerful vascular compound by nearly 3 times. If you've been drinking green tea for years and haven't noticed any difference in how you feel, it's almost certainly because you've been preparing it wrong. And the difference between wrong and right is not subtle. It's the difference between getting a fraction of the benefit and getting the full extraordinary effect. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate. I know that sounds like a word I invented on the spot, but it's real, and it's one of the most extraordinary compounds I've ever studied. Think of EGCG like a master key for your blood vessels. Your blood vessel walls have tiny receptors on them, almost like locks, and EGCG fits those locks and signals the vessels to relax and widen. This process is called vasodilation. When your vessels widen, blood flows more freely, your heart doesn't have to work as hard, and oxygen gets delivered more efficiently to every muscle and every organ in your body, including your brain. A study from Vanderbilt University found that adults over 65 who consumed green tea regularly had a 32% lower incidence of cognitive decline compared to those who didn't. 32% from a drink. Let that sink in for a moment. 1 in 3 cases of cognitive decline potentially prevented by something that costs pennies per cup and takes 3 minutes to prepare. That's not a supplement. That's not a prescription. That's a beverage. Here's why this matters specifically for your aging body. After 60, your blood vessels naturally lose elasticity. They become stiffer, less responsive, less able to flex and adapt to your body's changing demands. Think of a garden hose that's been left out in the hot sun for years. When it was new, it was flexible, supple, easy to bend, but after years of UV exposure and temperature changes, it becomes rigid. It cracks when you try to bend it. Water still flows through it, but not as easily, not as efficiently. That's what's happening inside your arteries right now, and it's happening faster than you think. The EGCG in green tea has been shown in research from Japan's National Institute of Health and Nutrition to partially reverse this stiffening at the cellular level. It does this by reducing something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs are essentially the biological equivalent of caramelization happening inside your artery walls. When sugars in your bloodstream react with proteins in your blood vessels, they create these stiff, sticky compounds that gradually harden the vessel walls. Over decades, this process accumulates. It's one of the primary reasons your arteries become less flexible as you age, and EGCG directly interferes with this process. Now, the preparation method matters enormously here, and this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. Brew your green tea at 175 degrees Fahrenheit, not boiling. Boiling water destroys up to 40% of the EGCG content. You're literally burning away the most valuable compound before it even reaches your lips. Let it steep for exactly 3 minutes, not 2, not 5, 3. Then let it cool slightly and drink it in the late morning, around 10 or 11 o'clock. Why that specific time? Because your body's cortisol rhythm creates an optimal window for vascular absorption during those hours. Your blood vessels are most receptive to the compounds in green tea when cortisol is in its mid-morning phase. Timing matters, temperature matters, duration matters. Get all three right, and you've unlocked something powerful. Here's the synergy tip for green tea, and this one is backed by research that genuinely shocked me when I first read it. Squeeze in fresh lemon juice. The vitamin C in lemon has been shown by researchers at Purdue University to stabilize EGCG in the digestive tract and increase its bioavailability by up to 13 times. 13 times from a squeeze of lemon. That means a single cup of properly prepared green tea with lemon delivers the equivalent EGCG of 13 cups prepared without it. That's not a minor enhancement, that's a transformational one. Let me tell you about a man named George, 67 years old, retired engineer from Ohio. George had been experiencing what he called brain fog. He'd forget words mid-sentence, he'd walk into a room and forget why he was there. His doctor had run tests and found nothing definitive, told him it was probably just age-related cognitive changes and to learn to live with it. George was not satisfied with that answer, and honestly, he shouldn't have been. When I explained the connection between vascular health and cognitive function, that the brain's ability to think clearly is directly tied to how well oxygenated blood reaches it, something clicked for him. He started drinking green tea prepared at the correct temperature with fresh lemon every morning at 10:30. 3 months later, George told me the fog had lifted. He was finishing sentences. He was remembering names at the grocery store. He'd started reading novels again, something he'd given up because he couldn't focus long enough to follow the plot. Was it the green tea alone? No. George also started walking daily and improved his diet. But he told me the green tea was the one change he noticed within the first 2 weeks. The mental clarity came first, and it gave him the energy and confidence to make the other changes. We're now entering the top two, and I need you to stay with me here because what's coming at number 2 is something that most doctors have never mentioned to their patients. The science behind it is nothing short of astonishing. It involves a flower you may have walked past 100 times without a second thought, and its impact on blood pressure is comparable to some of the most commonly prescribed medications in the world, without the side effects, without the cost, without the dependency, and the way it works inside your body will change everything you thought you knew about natural remedies. Number 2, and this is the one I teased at the very beginning, hibiscus water. Yes, that deep crimson flower you may have seen in teas or dried in the bulk section of a natural grocery store. That flower. And what the research shows about its impact on blood pressure and arterial function in adults over 60 is something that I genuinely believe should be common medical knowledge. But it isn't. And I think I know why, though I'll let you draw your own conclusions about that. A clinical trial published in the Journal of Hypertension found that adults with mildly elevated blood pressure who drank 3 cups of hibiscus tea daily experienced an average reduction in systolic blood pressure of 13 points over 6 weeks. 13 points. Let me put that in context for you because I want you to truly understand the magnitude of what I'm saying. That is comparable to the effect of some prescription blood pressure medications. Comparable, without the side effects that make you dizzy when you stand up too fast. Without the cost that makes you choose between your medication and your groceries, without the dependency that keeps you on a pill for the rest of your life. A flower, steeped in water, 13 points. Hibiscus works through multiple mechanisms simultaneously, and this is what makes it so remarkably effective. It contains compounds called anthocyanins and organic acids, particularly something called hibiscus acid, that act as natural ACE inhibitors. Now, ACE inhibitors are one of the most commonly prescribed classes of blood pressure medication in the entire world. Millions of people take them every single day. They work by blocking an enzyme that causes your blood vessels to constrict. When that enzyme is blocked, your vessels relax, blood flows more easily, and pressure drops. Hibiscus does something remarkably similar through entirely natural pathways. Your body doesn't know the difference between the pharmaceutical version and the botanical version in terms of the end result. The vessels relax either way. On top of that, a study from researchers at Tufts University found that hibiscus reduced LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, by 22% in adults over 60 over a 12-week period. 22%. So you're not just getting blood pressure reduction, you're getting a dual effect. Lower pressure and lower cholesterol from the same simple drink. That's not something most single medications can claim. Let me tell you about Arthur, 74 years old from Phoenix, Arizona. Arthur was on 2 blood pressure medications, and his cardiologist had recently mentioned the possibility of adding a third. He was frustrated. He was scared. He told me he felt dizzy every morning when he got out of bed. By afternoon, he was exhausted. He said his quality of life felt like it was slipping through his fingers and he didn't know how to stop it. When I asked about his daily habits, there was nothing that actively supported his vascular system. He was taking medications that managed his condition, but nothing that nourished the system itself. There's a profound difference between managing a problem and giving your body the tools to address it at the source. I added hibiscus water to his routine, 2 cups daily, one in the morning, one in the early afternoon. I told him to use 2 to 3 tablespoons of dried hibiscus flowers, which you can find in Latin grocery stores often labeled as Flor de Jamaica, steeped in 8 ounces of hot water for 5 to 7 minutes. Let it cool. Do not add sugar. If he needed sweetness, a small amount of raw honey was acceptable, but nothing else. After 10 weeks, Arthur's cardiologist was so surprised by his numbers that they reduced one of his medications. His energy improved. His morning dizziness resolved. And Arthur told me something that I'll carry with me for the rest of my career. He said, "Dr. David, I feel like I got 5 years back." 5 years, that's not a number I gave him. That's how he described the difference between how he felt before and how he felt after. A man who was watching his life shrink had just watched it expand again, all because of a flower in his water. Here's the synergy tip for hibiscus, and it's one of the most powerful combinations I've ever encountered. Pair your hibiscus water with a small piece of dark chocolate, 85% cacao or higher. The flavanols in dark chocolate and the anthocyanins in hibiscus work through complementary vascular pathways. They don't just each do their own thing independently, they enhance each other. Research from King's College London suggests this combination may increase nitric oxide production, the molecule responsible for relaxing and widening blood vessels, by more than either compound could achieve alone. It's the difference between hiring one worker and hiring a coordinated team. One important caution, and I want you to take this seriously. If you are currently on blood pressure medication, please discuss adding hibiscus to your routine with your physician before you start. Not because hibiscus is dangerous, because it is genuinely potent. It works so well that it may interact with your existing medication and your dosing may need to be adjusted downward. That's not a legal disclaimer designed to protect me. That's real medical guidance from a doctor who has seen this compound work too well in patients who were already medicated. Respect it. It earned that respect. Now, we've arrived. Number 1. The moment I promised you at the very beginning. The drink that Harvard-affiliated researchers connected to a 38% reduction in arterial stiffness in adults over 70. It replaces something your body has literally lost, not something nice to have, something essential that has been draining away year by year. And this is the most powerful natural way to put it back. Are you ready? Because what I'm about to tell you might be the most important thing you hear all year. Number 1, beetroot water. Fresh or powdered beetroot dissolved in water is, in my professional opinion, the single most powerful evidence-backed vascular tonic available to adults over 60. And most people walk past it in the grocery store every single week without a second glance. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, it's not complicated. It's a root vegetable that grows in the ground, and it might be the most important thing you ever add to your daily routine. Here's the science, and I want to explain this clearly because I need you to truly understand what happens inside your body when you drink this. Beetroot is the richest dietary source of nitrates found in any commonly available food. When you consume those nitrates, something remarkable happens. Beneficial bacteria on your tongue convert them into nitrites. Then your blood converts those nitrites into nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is arguably the most important molecule for vascular health in the entire human body. Think of nitric oxide like WD-40 for your arteries. When your body produces adequate amounts, your blood vessels relax, widen, and become more flexible. Blood flows freely. Oxygen reaches your muscles and your brain more efficiently. Your heart pumps with less effort. Everything works better. Every organ benefits. Every cell receives more of what it needs to function. A study from the University of Exeter, one of the leading research centers in the world for cardiovascular exercise science, found that older adults who drank beetroot juice before physical activity were able to sustain that activity 16% longer before fatigue. 16%. That's not a small margin. For a 72-year-old trying to climb stairs, carry groceries, or keep up with grandchildren, 16% is the difference between managing and thriving, between giving up and pushing through, between sitting on the sidelines and being in the game. Yeah. But here's what makes beetroot uniquely critical after 60, and this is the point I need you to remember above everything else I've shared today. Research published in the journal Hypertension found that our natural nitric oxide production declines by approximately 50% between the ages of 40 and 70. 50%. Half of this critical molecule gone. This is one of the primary reasons blood pressure tends to rise with age. It's why cognitive function declines because the brain isn't getting enough oxygen-rich blood. It's why physical stamina drops so dramatically because muscles aren't receiving the blood flow they need. Your body isn't just aging randomly. It's losing something specific, and beetroot water directly replaces it. The Harvard-affiliated research I mentioned, conducted through the Brigham and Women's Hospital Research Network, specifically looked at arterial stiffness using a measurement called pulse wave velocity. This is considered the gold standard for measuring how flexible your arteries are. Adults over 70 who consumed beetroot extract daily showed a 38% improvement in pulse wave velocity after just 4 weeks. 4 weeks, less than 1 month. 38% more flexible arteries from a root vegetable dissolved in water. For preparation, you have 2 excellent options. Option 1, juice, 2 medium-sized raw beets, and dilute with 8 ounces of water. Option 2, and this is far more practical for most people, use a high-quality beetroot powder. 1 to 2 teaspoons stirred into 8 ounces of water. Look for powders without added sugar or artificial flavors. The optimal timing is critical here. Consume your beetroot water approximately 90 minutes before your most physically active period of the day, whether that's your morning walk, your gardening, your physical therapy session, or simply the time when you're on your feet the most. This gives your body enough time to convert the nitrates into active nitric oxide, so the benefits are peaking exactly when you need them most. The synergy tip for number 1 is the most powerful of everything I've discussed today. Pair your beetroot water with vitamin C. Orange juice, kiwi, bell pepper, any high vitamin C food consumed alongside beetroot dramatically enhances nitric oxide stability. This means the nitric oxide your body produces from those beetroot nitrates lasts significantly longer in your bloodstream. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania found this combination produced measurably greater blood flow improvements than beetroot alone. You're not just producing more nitric oxide, you're making it last longer. You're extending the benefit well beyond what the beetroot could do by itself. One practical note before I bring this all together: beetroot will turn your urine and sometimes your stool a reddish color. This is completely harmless. It's called beeturia, and if you're not expecting it, it can be genuinely alarming. So I'm telling you now, do not panic. It's the pigment, not blood. You're fine. You're actually better than fine. You're giving your vascular system something it desperately needs.